Hey, welcome to another Roots review, this time for a spine warm-up routine. Whether you're getting ready for a workout or just want to loosen up before or after a long day, these exercises are a great way to wake up your spine and prepare it for some movement. Let's get it going. We're going to start with some bridge roll-ups. This exercise helps to engage certain muscles, but mostly introduce some controlled movement into the spine. You're going to lie on your back as I'm showing in the video with your feet at a comfortable distance from your hips. You shouldn't be feeling a significant stretch or pressure anywhere as you come into your start position. Your back can touch the floor, it cannot touch the floor in the start position. It'll really depend on what your base movement looks like. Take a deep breath and remember that our goal is to move each segment of the spine individually. You're going to tilt your hips up towards your face and start to peel off the floor. Each segment of your vertebrae, each segment of your spine, gently peeling and lifting away from the mat. The more specific you can get with the movement, the better. You want to see if you can move each and every level individually. On our way up, we're going to keep that inclination or that tilt of the pelvis until we get to the top position where you might feel a bit of glute engagement. On our way back down, we're going to create the same wave starting from the upper vertebrae where our back is still touching the floor behind your shoulder blades and roll our way all the way back down until our pelvis and hips are touching the floor once again. Continue to roll and wave up and down, gently introducing this movement to the spine, gently developing a bit more control, trying to make sure that you don't skip any levels and that you really address this movement with an intention to build more awareness around each and every segment of your spine. Your spine should move. Our spine is not meant to be perfectly controlled in space with nothing more than some core training to stabilize it. It's meant to also have nuanced, dynamic movement that integrates into everything that we're doing. Throughout this series, we're going to continue to work through this skill across more than one movement. Here we're moving into the cat-cow movement, which is really common in Pilates and yoga. The purpose of this movement, similar to the last, is to create more awareness and segmental level-by-level control of your spine's movement. This position is a little bit harder than the previous because we don't have anything to touch as we do the movement to let us know where we are in space. On the first movement in the bridge, we can use the floor as a contact point. And now we're trying to challenge ourselves to continue to develop that nuanced movement without any of that additional cueing. You'll notice that I'm coming into a hands and knees position with my toes up. Toes down is also fine. On a bed or a softer surface, if you have some knee sensitivity, is fine. You can go for fists instead of wrists for your upper body position if that's a bit more comfortable. I happen to have a bit of hypermobility, so you'll see my elbows fall into a lot of elbow hyperextension, which I try my best to control, but I'm not always on top of it. As you go to start and create this movement, pull from your pelvis similarly to how you just did on the bridge position and try to take that wave up through your spine all the way to your head, allowing it to hang at the top. In a second, we're changing to the reverse movement where instead of starting and leading with the pelvis, we're going to start and lead with the head and shoulders, which I personally find much more difficult to control and initiate than the previous movement. Both forms of control are really important for our spine, and we don't want to leave one part of the spine stiff while we open up the rest of it. Throughout each of these repetitions, see if you can move just a bit slower and a bit more controlled, finding more and more in between movements and smaller segments to control as you create your wave. Both the bottom and the top position should be comfortable here. If at the top or at the bottom you feel a bit of pain, discomfort, pressure, stretching that you're not so sure about, feel free to shorten the movement and shave off a little bit of those ranges and work more into the middle or neutral just to, again, start to introduce this movement. And then through the future sessions, tomorrow, later today, next week, you can develop a little bit more depth to the same exercise. Before we get up and move into a standing exercise, we're going to just warm up the hips a little bit in these child pose rock backs. The child's pose commonly is used for a relaxation, but with these rock backs, what our main goal to do is now to separate the understanding of when we're moving our spine versus when we're moving our hips. Throughout these 5 or so repetitions, the main goal is to not let your spine move, contrary to the previous ones, and to let your hips really deepen and open. We're now going to move over to the wall, another position that offers us a contact of knowing where we are in space, but this time using a weight to help us create additional movement. You're going to paste that small triangle right above your butt at the low of your back against the wall and stick it there. It's not going to move. However you feel comfortable, you're going to lean and grab a weight. Mine is 8 kilos. And the purpose of the weight is to actually pull us into the position so we don't have to use our muscles. So don't worry if it sounds like it's a bit too light. This isn't a strength movement. Similar to the past movements that we did, now we're peeling ourselves off of the wall, really focusing on what the lower back is doing and how it's coming back into contact or leaving the wall. You may feel that I'm doing this movement a bit faster than what you feel comfortable with. Feel free to slow it down and take some more time at certain angles where you feel you're getting a nice opening into the spine. If you feel that I'm going slower than you want to go, please don't speed it up. This movement is intended to be a movement of control and pace. Faster is not better. We want to keep it slow enough that we can feel the individual movements that we're creating. And even if your spine moves perfectly, this is about the fastest that we'd want to perform this exercise. To show another variation for how to perform this movement, I'm using a yoga strap that I'm stepping on with both feet and then threading through the loop that's between my 2 feet. This allows me to use something else to pull me into the curved spine position without maybe having a weight available. In this view, you can see a little bit more clearly how I'm peeling my back off of the wall segment by segment, with the largest focus coming between that spot where my sports bra hits on my back and the flat part of my sacrum, the triangle right above your butt that's pasted still against the wall. At the bottom of the movement, you shouldn't see any sort of a hip movement. There shouldn't be any hinging, creasing happening in the front of your shorts or leggings. If we're just moving from the spine, there's no reason for our legs or the clothes around them to change their position. And I always use the wrinkling of clothing to show me a trick of whether or not a client is moving from a place they shouldn't be. Our last movement are large hip circles. You're going to take a wide open stance between your feet and make sure this movement is coming from your pelvis and your hips rather than your back. Hopefully you can see in the video that my spine is staying relatively straight. Similar to the child's pose rock backs, the point is to introduce some contrast to the movements that we did with our spine and finish preparing us for the exercises or day ahead of us. As a little bit of a bonus, we're going to then move into some rotational spine exercises. These are actually for the upper back and the rotational component that our thoracic spine gives us. Taking better rotational forces in our spine and in our hips, which we'll review in another video, decompresses the lower back, the lumbar spine, from being compensated or loaded with movements and pressures that aren't meant to end up there. We're coming into the hands and knees position again to perform some thread the needle rotations. It's called this because one arm makes the thread and the hole between your other arm, torso, and leg makes the eye or the hole of the needle. As we move our arm through and start to create a twist, we want to leave our hips, our pelvis out of this movement and focus on the movement really coming from this upper back and the rotation. Feel free to give yourself a little bit of an extra push as I'm doing here to deepen the sense of stretch. We're not going to hold it for very long as we swap back and forth between the two sides. I've got my visitor, assistant, and workout buddy here joining me on my mat. Maybe you have one on your end as well. Try using your breath to help you deepen into this rotation. As you exhale, give yourself that little bit of an over push. You may feel a little bit of a pressure. Sometimes people are going to get a nice satisfying crack in their spine, but none of that is necessary for a quality and effective stretch. Aim to feel like the movement is coming from your spine as if you're wringing a towel rather than from your shoulder, torso, obliques, or other body muscles. Now we're moving into create another form of a torso rotation, this time moving the lower body rather than the upper, letting our knees fall left to right across the body in a nice rainbow motion, but with the knees, the ankles, the shins glued together so that we get the effect of really creating the rotation still at the upper middle back rather than in the hips or the lower back. Perform whatever pace feels comfortable to you, aiming for a sense of control, and then again using our breath to deepen into an exhale stretch as we come into the final position on each side. Pull your knees into your chest for a slight relief and release from this position, and then you're ready with a nice warm spine across multiple areas to continue on with your day.